Good morning, Muscatine. It's Thursday, which means it's about to get crazy in Muscatine. We all know that the next 4 or 5 days are going to be nuts. So let's just do a quick recap of what all you've got. Tonight, you have the Jackson Concert Series with the Celtic Christmas over at Wesley Methodist. Starts at 7:30. Of course, tickets are free. I'd show up early, get in, get a good seat, tell Dan I sent you. The event tomorrow. Actually, wait, one more thing tonight. I got a text message this morning from Joey Krieger that said, because of course they're doing toy time out there, the toy drive out at Edmore's. And Joey said, as always, Viola Warner and her team came through in spades. As they do, let me double check because I don't want to misspeak. They're going to be delivering their bikes tonight at about 5 o'clock out to Edmore's. And she's got 100 bikes again this year. So Viola, tremendous job as always. It's one of the greatest capstones to the Toy Time event is watching those bikes and about 500 people. I've never understood this. There's usually about 70 people out there to unload like 100 bikes. So they'll have plenty of help, but it's amazing to see that showroom covered in bikes. So you can either stop out, lend a hand, or just reach out, tell Viola and all her team thank you. Tomorrow, it's here. Jingle and Mingle starts at 5:30 to 8. We'll kick it off with the Christmas tree lighting at Midwest 1. We have out on PearlCityJingleandMingle.com, we've got the full schedule of events. It's been changing up until even yet this morning. We've been adding things and more details and things people are doing. There's over 70 businesses and organizations participating this year. Obviously, there might be a little bit of weather. We'll keep everybody posted on how everything goes, but it's going to be great. Kraft Heinz has got Winter Wonderland with Salvation Army and Crossroads. Tiny's Tunes will be down here. It'll be just as much fun as the last couple of years, plus probably a little bit more. Saturday night, Muscatine Symphony Orchestra, free Christmas concert. Don't miss it. Maestro Dollinger has a tremendous program set up. You won't want to miss it. And again, it's free. Like, how can you not go enjoy a free symphony in Muscatine, right? Sunday is the Habitat for Humanity tour of homes. You can still get tickets online. $20, 5 houses, wine, snacks. I don't even know what all there is, but I know you're going to see at least one cool house, which is Tony Sturm's and his like old school Christmas store of a house that just looks like, it literally looks like vintage Christmas threw up in his house. And I mean that in a great way. Like every Hallmark movie you thought you'd ever seen. And then that takes us to Monday, which also brings us to our huge announcement that I've been teasing for like a week or so. Freezing for Food will kick off. Of course, Discover Muscatine and I will be out at Hy-Vee in the H&I hauler all week. And one of the things to know before we get into this is this community always comes together when we need it. And food has always been a tough thing in this community. It's been tackled a lot. You know, there's the school district has those monthly food pantries. There's Salvation Army, MCSA. Everybody does a lot. And the crazy thing is we're still, when I talked to Riverbend last week, even after everything we do, it's still about 500,000 meals a year short, is what the need is. And you know, as we were looking at this year, we know everybody's had a tough year, and we've had, you know, a lot of people are still bouncing back from COVID, getting used to the new normal. And I was a little worried, I'll be honest. And so I made a call because I wanted to make sure that we put a dent in that need this year. And we were able to secure, and for scale, this is larger than anything we've ever done. All those semi-fulls of trucks you've seen, this is bigger. We secured a single $10,000 donation to Freezing for Food on one condition. Muscatine, you got a little work to do. We got to match it. So every bag of food, every dollar you donate out at the H&I hauler, out at Hy-Vee, every bag of food will be matched dollar for dollar up to 10 grand. So kind of for scale, you know, when we unload the trailers and we'll say there's, you know, a couple hundred bags that Hy-Vee makes up that people have bought, that 10,000 is the equivalent of like 400 bags. That's the equivalent of what we often do all week. So this is essentially going to double what we've done in the past. But again, we gotta do it. So I sent an email out to some friends and a bunch of business owners last night. And the good news is we've got a jump start on it. A couple emailed, there was somebody emailing with me last night at about 11 o'clock, figuring out how they can contribute, because what Matt Schweitzer and the team out at Hy-Vee did is they went out and put together, and we'll make sure this is available as well for you guys, is some like bundle packages where you can get pallets of this or pallets of that to make it easier. And so we've got a dent made in that 10,000 already, but it's, sorry. This one gets me. Food has always hit close to my heart, because we all know that kids can't study, they can't do anything. Nobody can focus on anything if you're hungry. I know I get ridiculously hangry if I'm hungry. Chris, don't say a word. And so we all know, we've all seen Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We know it's at the bottom. It's the thing you've got to have to be able to do anything else. So I can't say that I'm super excited to go spend all week outside in a trailer to get this matched. So I mean, like, if somebody wants to come in and write a check to match it, and so I can maybe stay inside, that'd be great. But if not, we'll be out there. So I told you guys to go ahead and get your cabinets all cleaned out, get them ready, get it ready to roll out Monday morning. I know the high school's already got their donation ready. So hopefully we can bang this out pretty quick, because I really want to make sure we don't leave $1 on the table. So that's my spiel. That's your 5 days in Muscatine. We got a lot to do, and I will get off my soapbox now. Holy cow, I feel like that was a lot. Chris, was that boring? Please tell me that wasn't horribly boring. Okay. All right. Now, here's the cool thing. And I don't know that cool is maybe the right word here. But as we talk about food, our next guest, actually our first guest even, from Family Resources, is here to talk about a lot of the stuff you guys do in the community that actually kind of like dovetails right into this stuff. So if you could, real quick, introduce yourself for everybody who may not know you, and a little bit about what you do with Family Resources.
Absolutely. So I am Pauline Pender, and I am the supervisor of the Access and Intake Department here at Family Resources. I've been with Family Resources for a little over 5 years now. Initially, when I first came into the agency, I started out in our survivor services, and then after a couple of years transitioned over into our care coordination, before ultimately being promoted to the position I'm currently in. With our Access and Intake Department, what it is it's serving as that initial point of entry into our agency. So much as you had mentioned before. So with Family Resources, all of our programs are really looking at those levels of needs. Like you had talked about, like with the food insecurities, like if you don't have food, that's your energy. That's how you're moving forward.
Nothing else matters if you're hungry.
And another big piece to that is safety. And so all of our programs keep that safety in mind and ensuring that the clients and the people receiving support are able to be as safe and have their needs met, whether it's food, a safe place to live, just emotional support because they're experiencing different crises at the time. And so with Family Resources, we are a nonprofit organization whose mission is to support successful lives and building strong communities through the array of programs that we have, which I'll jump to in a minute. But we're just really looking at like connecting, and you had mentioned everything that's going on in Muscatine, and the community is really coming together to support. For many years, I've spent time out here in Muscatine, and this really is a charming town that comes together to support.
She calls us charming.
It is. Like you go through, you see all of the shops, and it's really magical watching how all of the agencies and people come together, and Family Resources is really proud to be a part of that. As mentioned before, like we have multiple programs stemming from, most notably, we're often known for our survivor services, which provides services to anybody who is been affected by domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, any other violent crime. So essentially, if somebody is has been impacted by violence, we have a program, we have support, we have advocacy, we have counseling services available for them. And then we also have care coordination, which may be for a family that is experiencing a youth with mental health, and trying to get them connected to all those supports, because it really can be on like covering like the web. Oftentimes I think of like one of my favorite movie quotes is from Shrek, where it says that people are like onions. They have layers.
Yep.
And that is so true, and very much like with all the supports that we have within our agency, it's layered, and so Access and Intake is able to talk with the individuals, seeing what services that they're needing, and then making a streamlined referral into those programs. And so here specifically in Muscatine, we have that survivor services that I talked about, our care coordination services, and then we also have our community-based mental health clinical services for anybody who's in need of therapeutic services. And
so this is what I love about Family Resources is you guys cover more than just the Muscatine area, obviously. But it's not like it's this big, unwieldy thing that people get lost in. You are connected to each of the communities that you work with. And so it's one of those times where, you know, a lot of times we think about like, oh, well, if it's not local, it's going to be tough to use, or, you know what I mean? Like those sorts of things. And you guys have done a tremendous job of making sure that the services provided here make sense and coordinate in, and you work with a bunch of the other organizations that we all know. And it's great, because one thing that we talk about with just about every organization that's on, and I can't speak for you guys, but I'm going to go out on a limb and guess this is true. If you're sitting at home right now and you don't know where your next meal is coming from, there's been violence or abuse in the house, whether it's physical, mental, emotional, if you're concerned about your health, whatever it is, pick up the phone and call any one of the agencies. It doesn't matter. Whatever one you're most comfortable with. That first step is always the hardest, right?
Yes.
And again, doesn't matter which agency. They're trained to ask you the questions, to help you figure out if you didn't call the quote unquote right place, they're going to get you there. So there is no wrong place that you can call. And it's always the hardest, but take that first step, right? So if you were talking to somebody sitting at home right now, what are some of the things they might be experiencing or feeling that would say, hey, give us a call?
Yeah. So there's a wide variety of things that individuals might be experiencing. So one of the programs and services that we offer is our crisis residential stabilization unit, as well as our crisis stabilization community services. So if anybody's experiencing like a mental health crisis, it can be really hard to make those first steps to call to speak to somebody to say, hey, I need some assistance. Oftentimes we think about like, okay, if we're experiencing a mental health crisis, the best place to go is the hospital. I don't know about you, but that's the last place that I want to go to. Like, I want to be able to stay at home in my community, be around my support people. But there may still be a struggle, and they can reach out. We can send somebody to meet with them, talk with them, figure out what those next steps are and what they need within the community to be able to stay connected to the important things while getting the help that they need. There could be somebody who has been impacted by violence. There may be domestic violence in the household, and that can be really hard to reach out and say, like, I need help, I need support, because with so much with that power and control, they are the perpetrator of the violence is really trying to silence them and not have them reach out to others. So just calling, and they may not be ready to leave, but knowing that there's somebody that can talk to them, support them, and start making plans for safety. And then within like care coordination, much going back to that, once you start to go through the medical process, it's usually not just one doctor, it's multiple doctors, and there's multiple needs, and they're all working on things, and that can get really confusing. Like, I know for myself, like yearly when I go and have my physical, and then they're like, oh, you need to go over here, and you need to have, your cholesterol taken and a blood draw here, and after about like the third or fourth time, it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. Right. And so we can come in and provide that support and help coordinate all of that care and provide those wraparound services. And I love how before you were talking about like calling any of the agencies. There is no wrong door approach. If you know that there's something that you need extra support for, give us a call, give your favorite agency a call, and we're going to work with you. We're going to take the time, ask the questions, and get you pointed in the right direction.
Yep.
And definitely, like as you were talking about before, with the community, Family Resources spends a lot of time getting to know the communities that we serve, because each community has individual needs. There's no one size fits all. So I know back when I was an advocate, one of the first things was go in, get to know the community, network with the schools, network with the different organizations, and get to know them all.
Well, and I would think, and this is something that just sort of occurred to me as you were talking there, is, obviously it hasn't affected me, so you don't necessarily think about the details of how this stuff might work. And it occurs to me though, you see it on movies and it's like, okay, or TV, like, yep, you call and like it's just like a SWAT team comes in and gets you. But I would imagine it doesn't have to be that. Like, it can be a process, right? Like, it doesn't have to be like, I'm ready to make that decision right now. Like, it can be, I need to know what information I need to make the decision. And you call, you start getting information, and you process it all, right? Because I would have to imagine that it's a gamut of emotions. It's a tug this way, a tug that way. And it's probably not, it's kind of like, what do they say, the lobster or the frog that goes in the hot water. Like, you kind of get used to things, and then you start realizing like, oh, maybe this isn't how it's supposed to be. And then you just kind of like flow through this whole thing. And unless you've got support, and it takes a while to build those relationships. And so don't feel like it's like, wait until that last minute where I've absolutely got to do something this second. Start the process. Am I even close?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. And with all of the services that we provide, they are client centered. So like, it's going to be the clients that are coming in and telling us what is going on in their situation, in their life, what they hope the outcome is. And at times, especially at the very beginning, it's, I don't know. It's this crisis has happened. I can no longer do it on my own. I don't know where to turn to. And so they're coming in and we're letting them know, like, hey, we're following your lead. We're here to provide, the information, the resources, and that tying it back to the community of why it's so important to know what is available in each of the communities. Because really what we're doing is we're coming in and we're purging out this information and giving them all these choices. And oftentimes they may not have had choices before.
Right.
So we're putting them back in the driver's seat and saying, hey, we're here to follow you. You're taking the lead, but you're supported.
Right.
We care. We want to make sure that you have access to the things you need.
This actually, we often talk about random things that come to my mind while you're speaking, while the guests are speaking. And I just flashed back to an econ class in college where they talk about choices, and like, the more choices you have, the harder it is, even though you have more choices, right? And so you can get to like a paralysis mode, right? And they use like the supermarket example. Like, if you've got 2 different kinds of olive oil, you make the decision and go, right? If there's 30 kinds of olive oil, you sit there and you're like, I don't know which one to get, I don't know, whatever. And I would have to imagine when somebody who hasn't had a lot of options all of a sudden sees all this stuff, I can only imagine that it would be overwhelming, and you could go into that paralysis of choice mode really quickly. And having people around you that can say, hey, look, the olive oil on the top shelf, don't worry about that, that's not yet, that's later. Or this bottom section, that'll be for tomorrow, so let's just look at these olive oils and see which one makes sense. And it's amazing how humans in general all do that same thing. And having people who have been like, I've been here before, or not necessarily been there, but like, I understand the decision you're trying to make and what you're seeing. Here's how to, maybe one way to help process that, right? And I would imagine that's what a lot of your days are like, right?
Yep, absolutely. That helping in that navigating, and yeah, looking at like being in the moment and what is beneficial for now. There may be all of this stuff out here, but that's up for a later moment.
Yep.
And yeah, at the very beginning of when that call comes in or somebody comes in and says, I need support, that is what Access and Intake is there to do, is to figure out what exactly has been going on, what level of support to start at. Because even within our agency, all of our services are made to really be able to lean on each other. So when somebody may come in because they have been impacted by violence, but as they're meeting with their advocate or their therapist or counselor, they're unraveling all of these other needs, and so there's more supports within the agency. Sometimes it's beneficial to plug them in at the very beginning. Other times it may just be step by step. And so within all departments, we're all learning about what all the other departments do. So that way we can really just have those warm handoffs and really be able to lean on each other, because ultimately we just want to ensure that the individual is fully supported with those wraparound supports.
So let's kind of go the other route now. Let's say somebody's sitting at home right now and going, sorry, my contact is like absolutely jacked up. They're sitting at home right now and like, okay, that's not my situation, but I'd like to help, right? What, especially with the holidays coming up, you guys have an adopt-a-family program. What does that look like? How can somebody help out?
Yes, so especially with adopt-a-family, as well with everything that we do, community support is vital. But adopt-a-family is really like one of the most amazing times of the year, because it is the community coming together to support one another. So all of our clients, no matter what service they're in, from therapy to care coordination, they would qualify to be a part of our adopt-a-family. And what that is that the families make a wish list. They sit down with the kids and they fill it out and they figure out like, okay, what is it that we would like to have for Christmas? And oftentimes it's really touching, because it is sometimes just that minimal essential needs. And so they fill out the list, they submit it back to us. Our terrific RDD department is networking with all sorts of different agencies, individuals, and just making sure that these families are able to get adopted. Once a family adopts one of our families, they go out and they do the shopping, and then they return the gifts back to Family Resources. It can either be wrapped or unwrapped, depending on like the group or the individuals or even the family's needs, and just really showing the individuals that receive our services that their community supports and cares about them. Because oftentimes the holiday seasons, as wonderful and joyous as it is, can be really, really difficult for families needing support. And so this is just one way that they can make the decision to be able to pay the bills, get that food that they need, and not have to worry about, are there going to be presents under the trees for my kids, of knowing that the community has us in that support.
And one of the other things that I always try and connect it back to something in my life that happened, to kind of like make sure that I'm processing it and understanding everything. And I'll never forget a conversation I had about 6 years ago maybe. A friend of mine was talking about Santa, right? And as I grew up, Santa was the one that brought all the gifts, right? It's just how it was. And what he suggested was, you should actually have Santa just give your kid like one small gift, like unwrapped, whatever, and then have the rest come from you. And I'm like, well, that's not as fun, right? And he's like, well, yeah, but if your kid goes to school and says Santa brought all this stuff, and maybe another kid didn't get a lot from Santa, and he like just got that part of it out, and I'm going, yeah, guess what? We changed it instantly, right? And you know what? It's been fine. It makes sense, and it also gives us a chance to have that conversation with our son, and and he's aware of like what other kid, you know what I mean? Like it's made just that one random conversation that, can change the way even a kid down the road handles it. And the way your adoptive family comes in can be like that one little Christmas present, that one little Santa present, that one little thing that changes, it changes Christmas morning, sure, but it also changes the next day at school. And, like there's so many things that affects. And the adoptive family programs are just huge, huge.
Yes, absolutely. And I know that shopping isn't necessarily everybody's cup of tea, especially around this time of the year. You've probably already been out and about, and the idea of going into another store may just be a little overwhelming. So like monetary donations are also able to be used, and somebody can go and do the shopping for the families or those last minutes.
I would assume you could probably just Amazon it and like just have it all delivered straight to you guys, I would assume, right? Like, should be easy.
Yeah, I definitely think that is something that if somebody is interested in, that we could really coordinate all the details of that.
Yeah. So real quick, just to kind of recap, the big thing to know about Family Resources is it's a nice wide berth of things that they can do to help. So like a lot of the agencies, if you are sitting at home and you're concerned about it, pick up the phone and call. I mean, obviously if it's an abuse situation, things like that, that's kind of your main lane, but there's so many others right there with it. And then, if you're sitting at home and you're like, how do I help? It's adopt a family, right? And they can just reach out to you guys, and I mean, whether it's the website, call, they're going to know how to get them to. You're not going to be like, yeah, no, we don't know how to do this adopt a family thing. I guarantee you, anybody that picks up the phone will be like, yeah, I know where you need to go.
Yep,
right?
Nope, absolutely. Call, website, there's many ways to get in contact with us. And then also, not only during the holiday season, but we need support all year round, whether it is somebody who's looking to volunteer and help assist with like office cleaning, or undergoing our advocacy training and helping with phone lines. There is so many opportunities for volunteering, especially during the season, but also all year round.
That's awesome. Was there anything else big that you wanted to make sure we touched on?
I feel like we have covered quite a bit of things. I just want everybody in the Muscatine community to know that we are here. If you're experiencing, some form of crisis, or even you just need somebody to talk and some extra support, like this can be a lonely time for people, call. We're here.
Yeah, and that's, one thing to folks, this is how if you literally just grab your phone, type into Google family resources, just those 2 words, you're going to find them. Like I checked. They're like the first thing that pop up if you Google them. So just, you can scroll through their site, see what all they've got, but just then click the extra button, make the call if you need to.
Yes.
So with that, couple quick reminders. Tonight, Jackson Concert Series. Tomorrow night, Jingle and Mingle. Saturday night, Muscatine Symphony Orchestra. Sunday, Habitat Tour Homes. And Monday starts Freezing for Food. Go get your food ready, because we've got a job to do, Muscatine. So with that, we'll call it a morning, and don't forget to go attack the rest of the day with an enthusiasm unknown to mankind. Have a good one.